Okay, we are going live right now, and hopefully we'll start seeing a few people come in and get ready to start the Wisdom Tree. This is a short version of my big painting workshop that usually goes over 5 weeks, or we do it in a full day. So this is just a small version, so you get a taste of something that you could do at home when you're ready. Just give people a little bit of a chance to get on, say hello, so we know you're there. Make sure you have a cuppa or wine, whichever time of day you're at, and we'll get started shortly. So you might want to have your paper and either your watercolors or your watercolor pencils or your textures. Crayons work really well with this too, if you happen to have crayons. So let's see. Hi, Silky. It's 11 a.m. in your space of the world. Awesome. You're awake. I think some people said it was going to be 4 o'clock in the morning in their part of the world, so they'll watch it later. So this will be up in the group, so you can go back if you need to refresh what's happening. Hi, Jan. Okay, we've got a few people in, so let's maybe start thinking about this while we're waiting for more to join us. So if you can see over here, this is sample one that I started working on, just so that you had an idea of what it might look like. I'm not going to finish it all the way because I want you to think of how you want your artwork to look like. And what we're basically going to be looking at is how we use a tree as a metaphor for our lives. So if we think about trees, they have roots, they have a trunk, they have leaves, lots of branches. You know, they grow in compost, so the stuff that we throw away or the stuff that's not very good, that we think is not very good, is where all our roots grow into. So maybe start thinking about, before we start, is what are some things that you may have as things that you think are hurts, or maybe things that you don't feel very confident with. So things that we're going to start creating into some compost, because that's going to be our first thing to do. So just keep that in mind. And what we want to do is we take our piece of paper. So we consider that we have a ground line, fairly simple process. Just do it lightly. You can always come back and do things a bit darker, but you are going to have your tree trunk going up in the middle somewhere. Hi, Shirley. Nice of you to join us. So your first thing that you might want to do is around our dirt here, basically, our compost. You start putting in some words. Now all of the words we're generally going to cover up, and this is the process where we're getting it out of our system and we're making it part of an artwork. It's out there, we're acknowledging it, we're making it part of something that's going to grow from us. So for me, maybe, which is, I've got some down here, and I was talking a little bit about, okay, I've got some self-doubt. Now remember, you don't have to show this to anyone, but it's good if you're able to just dig deep and put the things that are on your mind. I've got, there's always the not good enough thing. Keep working on that one, but there's always layers. We're such onions, it's terrible. What's another one? I don't know enough. Now, the thing that's happening here is that these things that are the icky feelings, they're the things that help us to start looking at growing and transmuting those things into our strengths. So now if we go ahead and put in some roots, and your roots can be squiggly, they can be whatever shape you think they are. It's your tree. So if you're following along, don't be scared of making mistakes, because you can't make a mistake in this process. We're not aiming for realistic, we're just going through the process. So give yourself some roots that come up to where your tree trunk's going to start. Now what you need to do in here is start to write down in your root system, these are your strengths. So what strengths have you got? So say for me, I'm going to put adaptability in there. I'm getting more and more tested with that one, and yep, very adaptable these days. I am creative, and so on. So you can fill in your roots, find a few things. You might actually not have thought too much about it, but you probably have more strengths than you think. So now once we've done that bit, let's start with some colour. Now, because we've got this earthy ground, and we don't want to just cover it up because we don't like it, we also want to acknowledge the fact that those hurts, those yucky bits, help us to get to where we're going and build our strengths. So, you know, give it that soil, give it a colour or a couple of colours. It might be a few different colours. So I'm just going to colour in this bit. And it doesn't matter that the words disappear, it's probably part of our process to get them in there. Might have other colours. I actually don't have a lot of colours in my pencils range. So if I'm going to mix a few things, I'll get, if you do mix orange and blue, you will get some sort of brown, just so you know. Okay, so I could go with that, and I might just put a bit of water in it. And see when you've got watercolours. And if you've got your watercolours, let's try another side with the watercolours. Remembering that it doesn't have to look amazing. This could be your first try at it, and it's just a matter of having a go at it. Okay, I'm going to do some watercolour straight from the watercolour pencils. There you go, I've got a bit more brown. And you don't have to do things the colours that they are. You might have soil that's purple. You might have the soil be a bright orange. Totally up to you how you do it. So as we go, we cover up and we have our roots there. And then we might start doing some of my roots. I think I'm going to do my roots in a lilac. Oops, nearly lost my drink. And remember not to dip your brush if you've got water into your drink. That happens a lot around here. It's a bit of a worry. Okay, so I'm going to have some purple roots. How are people doing with that? You having a go? Right, so there we go. Okay, so obviously you continue on and finish that bit. So now we're moving on to, I'm running through this a little bit faster, so don't stress. You can, I want to make the live a little bit short so that you don't have to sit there watching, but you might want to then, you know, take your time with it and just see the steps that you need to do. Okay, so we want to do the trunk. Now, our trunk, we're going to leave for the minute. And we're going to do our trunk. Now, you might have a really thick trunk. It might look like a boa, or it might be a little bit thinner. And it's going to go out into branches. And some of these branches, if you join them at the bottom, it tends to look more branch-like. I don't know if that's a word, but let's just make it a word. And so give yourself a few branches. Some might be coming down a little bit. You can be as creative as you like with that. Could be a willow tree, which hangs down a little bit. All right, so in our branches, let's write down some of the things that we're actually wanting to have in our lives as far as all the aspects. So we all probably want some sort of love. We want to have abundance. Okay, so go through with your branches and find at least 3 things that you're aiming for in your life. You might be okay, I want to learn some more things. So learning. And again, we can start to colour in this tree. I'm going to go with the red again. So one thing you can do with both watercolour pencils and watercolours is that you can put the colour to one side, just as a little tip for you painting, and you can just run it along the edge. And that way you get like a darker side. See how that one's just turning out a little bit darker? There we go. So we can do it like that, or we can bring in the watercolor. And if you're doing textures, just same thing. Just put your texture color all the way through. Anybody got any questions? Feel free to just pop them on the comments and I'll get to you. If you're not sure about anything or you want to know some extra tips of what you could do. Okay, so there's my branches sort of done. Now the other thing you can do too is when watercolors dry, you can come over and draw over the top of it again and add extra color, and that gives you some deeper colors as well. Hi Murray, nice of you to join us. We're just in the process of doing the tree, so you might see where we're up to and then start from the beginning a bit later. Right, so we're going to branches. Now let's consider our leaves. And we're going to call these leaves possibilities and dreams. So every leaf, now leaves are not very hard to do. They're kind of sort of semicircle pointy bits. And you can get fancy if you want, and if you know there's different types of leaf shapes, but this is your basic one that you can do, and you can always just put a little bit of a line through it as a starting point. Okay, and these leaves, we're going to look at what are the possibilities. Now, thinking about not the realities of what you think right now. So not thinking about things that, oh, I want this, but there's no way I could have it. I want you to dream and dream big and think of what are the possibilities of the things you want. So I've got one there that I've put in that I would like a beautiful, what do you call it? I lost my words. Studio space. So I've got studio space at the moment, which is nice, but it's a little bit small, especially when you have 3 or 4 people in here. Okay, Shirley, so you stress about doing background or foreground first. If you wanted to, usually when we do any sort of art, we tend to do a background first and then work over the top. For this process, you can just start this way, or you can start in the background as well. So it usually does make it easier if you do the background first, because then you don't have, like, when you come across into these areas, you have the white bits coming through. But in saying that too, because we're working with watercolor, sometimes you want some of the white to show. So it's probably worth experimenting with and seeing what look do you like better. Because this is one that you could do a couple of to get the hang of it. So we're putting in our dreams and our possibilities in our leaves. So what else did I have in there that I was thinking about? Also, I can travel. That's right, it was my traveling thing. I'm going for a few trips this year, and I'm looking really forward to it, as doing it more often. So traveling. Again, we want to color in our leaves. And like I said, you don't have to have green leaves. You can have any color leaves you like. There's no set way for this. Even if you're trying to just be creative, just feel yourself what color wants to come through. Sometimes it's really interesting, the color combinations that you'll get if you just listen and trust that. So orange leaves work well. What about, we've got more purple. And we're filling up. Getting lost with my paintbrush. Keeps disappearing on me. So talking about your background, as Shelley was looking at, you can colour that too in. You can use a brush, and sometimes leaving a little bit of a gap between where the trunk is and fading it out. So more water, less paint. If you're using the watercolours, same if let's do it with the watercolour pencils. Of course, if you are using just colouring in pencils, you can get different effects just by using, usually in a box you'll have a couple of different yellows and an orange. So you could start off with the orange and then go down to the yellow at a certain spot. So even doing things like this. Now that we've got the watercolour, you can come along . So I've got this lovely colour going on. Actually, yellow was not something I was expecting to use, but there you go. And if you feel like you're going to get a bit squished with your trunk, you know, use the pencils or the textures rather than... Texture ones look awesome because they're always so bright. And whether you have this in your book or if you have it as a piece of paper, you can always put that up somewhere you can see it and remember what you're using it for. So let's have a look now at the last bit, which is the trunk. So we've got our strengths down here in our root system, and up the top we've got our dreams and our things that we want. So here we can actually start to put, our trunk is how we get there. So let's consider that this is where you put your steps to get there. So for me to travel, I need to be able to save up enough for, say, let's say 2 trips a year. Another thing I might want to do with my beautiful studio space is maybe start looking for bigger houses. So another home to move to, perhaps. Although my partner will kill me because he's sick of us moving in trying to find the right spot. So you can do that all the way down if you want, And if you wanted to be really tricky and do it in order, you could do the easiest step down the bottom and work your way up to the things to get to your dreams and possibilities. So there you go. Oh, we've gone 5 minutes over. I was meant to be this short. Sorry, guys. So what I'll do is I'll leave it there, have a go at doing it, and then post below in the comments, or we'll just post them up and do a hashtag day one so that we all know where our day one pictures are going. Part of our accountability here so that we're all keeping on track. So I'm going to finish mine later this evening once I put the little critter to bed. And I look forward to seeing all of your work up there. If you can't make it straight away, do it when you can, but please post it up so that we can see what you're doing. Okay, have a great night or morning wherever you are. And remember that you can paint your way to change. See ya.